Welcome to Closing the Gap, the show for real estate agents who want to build a better business and a better life. Your host is Steve Stowe, accountant, advisor, and the guy who'll give you a second set of eyes on your numbers. Every week, Steve brings you a conversation you can actually use, the kind that helps you close the gap between where your business is and where you want it to be. So, huddle up, real estate pros. Here's Steve.
Welcome to Closing the Gap, the show for realtors who want to build a better business and a better life to go with it. I'm Steve Stowe, accountant, advisor, and your teammate in the numbers. Every week, I'll sit down with someone who knows their corner of the real estate world really well to pull out what you can actually use. And each month, those conversations circle one theme that matters to your business. So let's get into it. This month, the theme is becoming referable. Not being liked, being the person others stake their reputation on. So all month, I'm talking with different people to see what that looks like up close. Today, it's Rob Elder, loan officer over at Granite Bank. He sees referral relationships from a side most agents never really get to. Rob watches which agents are in repeat business and which don't. And he's going to pull back the curtain a little bit on what makes an agent someone he's glad to work with and someone he'd point a client towards. So Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here on your first episode. Look forward to sharing some information.
Perfect. Well, tell us a little bit about you and the work you're doing over at Granite Bank.
Well, I'm a veteran myself. I've been in what I call the people business for 35 years, all in finance of some sort or another. I've been in the mortgage lending space for going on 9 years. And I serve all 50 states, fortunately, with Granite Bank.
Great. So we just dive right in. Like, tell me about what is it about an agent that makes you love working with that agent?
First and foremost, obviously, you have to be on the same page, if you will. You know, everybody does business with those they know, like, and trust, and have the same values, right? So those that are in it for the relationship, sometimes it takes a while to develop that relationship, but once you do and start doing business together, it's a lot more sustainable. And, you know, it's almost like working with your spouse, right? Your spouse can think about what you're going to say before you say it. You know, having that kind of relationship is extremely valuable.
So walk me through the moment an agent lands a client in your hands. Walk me through that moment. What makes the handoff smooth?
Honestly, what makes the handoff smooth is the transfer of trust, most importantly, not just a text, a joint text. Here's Rob, he's my lender. You know, he's going to answer your questions, take care of it. You know, it needs to be more than that. It needs to be a transfer of trust so they know that you do, in fact, have a relationship with your lender, and that more than anything. And then from there, it's kind of a blank slate so that I can ask my own questions and find out what they're about and what their wants and needs are and what their goals are, so that they know that I do, in fact, have an interest in what they're trying to accomplish and not just the transaction.
So what does that transfer of trust look like, or what does it sound like?
I have agents in all different states. So, you know, right out of the gate, even if it's through email, say, and they put us on a joint email, I always make sure myself to, hey, Mr. and Mrs. John Doe, I received your referral from John White, and you've picked a great agent. He and I have been doing business for many years, and I trust you are in good hands. And I would expect the same kind of transfer of referral in the same manner. Hey, John Doe, meet Rob Elder with Granite Bank. He and I have been doing business for many years. We've been helping clients solve all their problems, and I trust you're in good hands. And it's that simple.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it's simple, but it's not very common.
Right. No, it's not, because it's a little bit more to it, right? It's not just the connection of the email or the connection of the text. You need to transfer that trust, because right out of the gate, they trust the agent, or they should, or they wouldn't be working with them. So if you transfer that trust to somebody that they've never met, they've never seen, they've never talked to, their guard's going to be down right out of the gate. I've got a transfer of trust from a broker in Wyoming and did business with one or two of his agents for over a year before I've met him face to face, and did tons of deals together because of that transfer of trust. And then you got to back it up, of course, but that's the easiest way to do it.
You're in a unique situation where you are almost an extension of the agent, right? Because you're getting involved. They've already chosen the home. They're the buyer. All they need is to finish the financing. You're an extension of that transaction for that realtor.
Right. It's almost like you can kind of relate it to somebody that needs an attorney, right? Going to court. Usually an attorney has, another attorney. They both work together on the team. And so you're on the same team, but only that, but all your best interest is for the client. My best interest is for the client, but also to protect the agent. Right. So, and because we would have that close of a relationship of working together, I won't be afraid of saying something one side or the other, right? Because I'm going to be talking just like the agent or representing the agent as if they're the ones speaking with the client. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So what sort of information do you wish agents would give you up front that you find that you usually don't get?
Usually just a little bit of the initial story, right? What's their relationship with the client? What have they talked about so far, if you will? Have they indicated any issues to them that maybe it'd be helpful that I knew about up front, to where I can do a little bit of fact finding on my end of things so that I can provide more valuable education to the client when we do in fact talk. So not too much information, but some that may help. I can gain some rapport, some common ground with the client out of the gate, which is going to develop more trust with them up front.
Is there such thing as an agent over communicating with you?
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. I always want to develop, and I'm going to ask my own questions so I can develop my own plan of attack, if you will, or program, because that's what I deal with every day. It's just the small things, like share that they know that they're a veteran, just as an example, right? So I'm a veteran. So if I know that going up front, then we can talk about that. Talk about something that's irrelevant from the transaction they're trying to get pre-approved or buy a house, but more, hey, what branch of service were you in? I found out that you did this or you lived there, and just kind of go off on a fact-finding mission there. And they're going to feel more comfortable with me once we start getting into the business side of it. And, tell me about your credit. Some people, they're going to be reluctant to share certain things about their credit unless they feel comfortable. So that's what I really like doing first.
Yes, that makes sense. And then you can even, with some of that information, now you can actually look for the right program based on information that you may or may not have had before.
Correct. It's interesting because, not every client uses the same program, obviously. But even within FHA or conventional, as an example, or VA, there's certain situations that require additional programs, right? Based on their individual needs. So, it'd be simple and everybody would do it as a lender or agent if they fit in the same box. If it was just as simple as FHA or simple as conventional or simple as VA, right? But there's always a lot of things behind the scenes that you have to be able to transition to something else, right? To solve a problem that comes up or whatever. Everybody wants the easy clients. And based on today's world, right? Not everything is easy. So you need somebody that's going to be able to be a good problem solver.
I think when an agent sends you a deal, there's always the best intentions. And I wonder if there's cases where an agent just accidentally makes your job harder without them knowing that.
Right. Yeah. I think sometimes I'll tell you as an example, when like we're under contract per se, they don't mean to make my life harder, but a client always has to do their inspections first, right? To make sure there's no underlying issues with the home inspection that would prevent them from moving forward. Once I know that, then that's when I order an appraisal, right? Well, sometimes, they wait too long. They negotiate the repairs too long, or they forget to let me know that it's okay to order the appraisal. And sometimes that puts a situation where you're in a rush situation that didn't need to happen. That's just as one example. But as far as a referral up front before we even get a contract, I would say not trying to make it more difficult, but just transferring some of that trust or rapport goes a long way.
The common theme I'm hearing throughout all of this is it's all about communication,
Correct.
and that there is no such thing as over communication.
No, there's no such thing.
So on the flip side to that, then as an agent or as a buyer's agent, how would they or what can they do with their buyer to prepare them, the buyer, to speak with you about the loan? Because there's got to be a way an agent can actually prep their client.
Yeah, for sure. I think one most important is to find out what is their best form of communication. Some as an example, sometimes in a lot of agents, because they're busy, when you call, their voicemail says for better response. And I'm not saying just agents, but a lot of people, for better response, send a text message. So that's a pretty useful tool that if I knew that ahead of time, then I may send an email after I send a text if there's some important information, but I'm going to initiate the conversation via text because that's what they're comfortable with. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, communication has always been important, but now it's more important because, and I hate to even say it, but since COVID, people don't come into offices. Technology has come so far that they'll talk over the phone. Hey, I can call you. I can meet you for coffee. Well, if you send me a text, I'll respond better. So I guess just knowing that part of how they want to communicate up front would make things a lot quicker.
Yeah, it's nothing more frustrating than sending somebody a voicemail and then find out that person checks their voicemail once a week.
Correct. Or emails, right? Some
or
people,
emails.
like, I go check my mail. I don't know how often you check your mail, but I might check it once a month.
Yeah, what's mail?
But
The only bad things come through the mail.
Right. So, but some people with their email, especially if they're not, used to the process, right? So they don't check their email all the time or once a couple times a day or morning and night at least to see if anything. But what I do though, too, is when I see an email goes out that's requesting something or something from processing, I automatically send a text. Hey, be on the lookout for this email from Karen, right? So that they see and know to check it. We also
Perfect.
have a tool, which is very helpful, that agents can have on their phone. And it automatically sends them notifications throughout the process. When it goes into processing, when it goes into underwriting, when it goes into closing, without anybody having to reach out. It automatically gives them notifications.
Quick word about what I actually do all day. I run a bookkeeping business for small business owners, and I love working with realtors, so I put together a special package just for them. Monthly categorization in QuickBooks, clean reconciliations, and tax-ready reports, all backed by an advisor who actually picks up the phone. And here's something just for listeners of this show. Sign on as a client and I'll cover your Monarch Money subscription, the tool that finally separates your personal and business spending, free for as long as you're with me. All of it, $300 a month. That's about $10 a day. So if you're tired of tax season being a fire drill, come talk to me at Apex Accounting and Advisory.
You like working with some realtors. Well, you probably like working with all realtors. Are there other things that the ones that you like working with do that the other ones don't? Outside of communication?
I would say, when I first started doing mortgage lending, I went out and tried door knocking, for lack of a better term, right? Real estate offices and open houses, which you would think is the best way to meet agents. But I found out real quickly that it's really not. And so the best way to meet agents is networking, right? And through other people that you've established a relationship with, as yourself, for an example, right? The more we know each other, the more we talk or, hang out or go play golf, something totally unrelated to mortgage or lending, that you become more comfortable to do a referral to an agent that you might have done business with or a friend or whatnot. That's the best way to meet agents, because then you're going to start out on the right foot. You're going to start out with a transfer of trust, and it takes longer to build your agent referral partners. But again, they're a lot more sustainable. They mean more, and you're actually not just partners in a transaction, but you're partners in a relationship. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So build the relationship early. And that way, you've already set expectations. You've already set, how we want to communicate with one another. And then as that's happening, trust is being built
Right.
between you and the realtor.
Right. And,
Right.
when I'm talking to a realtor, agent, one of the first questions I ask, which again, I meet most of my agents after we've already established some sort of relationship, or it was a warm referral from somebody that has a relationship with that agent and me, per se. And, first questions are, what are your pain points when it comes to your experience in the past? I never try to go with whoever they're using now, but in the past, what were your pain points? And then I can figure out how I'm going to solve them. Right. So, and ironically enough, as we keep talking about it, the number one thing that comes up is communication, lack of communication. And
Or
why
lack
is,
of it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And consequently, the agents that I work with, just like a transaction manager, when they get a deal under contract, turnover transaction manager, you don't hear from that agent, right? Because it's going from my assistant and the transaction coordinator, and unless there's an issue, you don't hear from me, right? I might have an issue with the financing on the back end of things, but the agent doesn't need to know about that. That communication doesn't need to come up unless there's a problem. So the communication on and throughout the process needs to be as seamless as possible, even if there's a couple underlying bumps.
Now, I think you've answered this question for us, but really the theme of this month and the reason I'm talking to a lot of people is what makes somebody referable, right? And I think you've answered it, but I want to hear again, what is it about you specifically that makes agents want to refer deals to you?
I think the one things, some feedback that I get is just being genuine, right? Being transparent. I'm not trying to, the smartest person in the room is the room, right? So I do more listening than I do talking. I'm really transparent. And so I think the agents that I work with, they know that, right? So they're confident that I'm not going to be talking over their head or trying to just give them enough information to lock them in, right? I want to give them enough information to make a good educational decision, and they're going to feel comfortable talking to me, being approachable, contacting me at night. Don't be afraid of that, right? And you don't find that all the time, because that's what's important to me, right? I want to treat everybody like family, I say, and I mean that genuinely. But anyway, it's important to me.
What if you're like me and just never call your family?
Well, just text them, don't call. No, it's
What a
just,
great invention.
yeah, right. Everybody texts. Well, I don't know what we do without our phone anymore, right?
I don't know. It's like stuck to us. It's part of us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now this doesn't happen to you very often, just the nature of the way the work flows in the real estate world. So it doesn't happen often, but sometimes you're in a position to point a buyer towards an agent, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
when that comes up, what makes you comfortable, putting your name behind an agent?
First and foremost, obviously, is the relationship. I mean, and personalities, right? I know the client or the borrower or where they're looking at purchasing, and you want to make sure that I'm pairing them up with the right agent that will have the same personality. But more importantly, all the agents I work with really have the same mentality, the same, their needs of the client is what's most important, not the transaction. That's huge for me. I'll also, if I get a referral, a client that's pre-qualified without an agent, then if there's an agent that we've been working on a relationship trying to develop, then that's an agent that I want to refer that client to, because then they know that I value the relationship. I wish I had more opportunities, and trust me, we're working on it as Granite Bank, but those things are going to start coming more frequently. But that's what's important to me when I transfer them to an agent, that I know that I'm not going to have to come behind it. Hey, how's it going? How are they treating you? Because I already know they're going to be treated well. I know they're going to communicate well.
So back to communication, it seems like, again, that's the theme. And I tend to think that communication is a big thing. Is there a small thing that an agent does that potentially just quietly loses your confidence in that? Because I think communication is a big thing. Is there a small thing?
I think, I don't know, honestly. I think maybe the timing of communication. I know we keep talking about communication. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but in this business or any business, everything comes to communication and the timing of it, right? I mean, if the client tells me, or asking me questions that they should be asking their agent, maybe, which is fine, right? Because I'm in it on both ends. I don't try to talk their business, but obviously I'm involved in it, so I know quite a bit about it. But if they're asking me questions that they should be asking their agent, then it tells me right away that they're not communicating, right? I can't get a hold of them. They're not responding. I sent them an email yesterday, or I sent them a text this morning, and here we are at 4:00 and haven't heard back. Even if I haven't heard back, or I mean, if somebody sends me a text, unless I'm in the middle of a conversation like we are, I send them a message right back. Hey, I'm busy right now. I'll call you in an hour. I mean, they get some sort of communication very quickly. So that's a small thing. Don't get me wrong, but it's something that means a lot.
So what's the easiest way to break trust with Rob Elder?
I think the easiest way with anybody is being truthful, integrity and being truthful. Tell the truth, even if it hurts, right? Don't tell me what I want to hear. If there's a situation, as an example, with an inspection or with a repair or something like that, just be truthful. We can help together be problem solvers. It doesn't have to be a problem. Let's just talk it out, right?
Not disclosing the truth, right?
Yeah.
Is the quickest way to lose trust with you.
Right. What happened? You find out after the fact, or during the fact, what happened here, right? Because then it makes us both look bad, not just me or not just them. If I do something, it can make the agent look bad, and I'm here to protect the agent as much as I am the client. So, and vice versa. If the agent does something that's deceiving or not honest or dishonest or unethical, then the client in a lot of cases is looking at the whole transaction, the whole experience, and that could sour, the taste of the whole experience.
Interesting thing just popped up in my mind when you said that. Oftentimes, when we think of the lender-buyer relationship, we think the buyer is the client of the lender. But what I think I'm hearing is that it goes beyond that, right? Because it's almost like the agent themselves is almost the client to you, as opposed to just the buyer.
Correct. I don't know how to make this sound more than what it is, and you can correct me if you think it sounds wrong, but it's almost like being a pilot, right? You have a co-pilot, but you're on the same team, and my job is to protect everybody, right? The borrower is the passengers on the ride. The co-pilot's there. I'm the co-pilot. The realtor's the pilot, right? So I'm in between them. You don't hear the pilot talk a lot to the client, right, on a plane, but they'll talk a lot to the co-pilot, and I'm in there to communicate between both of them. That may be the wrong analogy, but
No,
I'm just saying,
I think that's a good analogy.
yeah, I'm there to protect both of them. right? I'm there to protect the agent's commission. And what do I mean by that? I mean that the transaction goes smoothly. And if the transaction goes smoothly, the most important thing to me is after the transaction. Most people say, well, why is that? Because if they have a smooth transaction, the borrower, the client, is going to refer to the agent and myself, hopefully, right? So that's how I'm further protecting the agent's commission or income, if you will. And and me the same. I mean, if a client needs other resources like a bookkeeper, right, landscaper, or you name it, that's what's important to me, is being a resource to the borrower or to the client and to the agent.
So if an agent wanted to strengthen their relationship with their lender, just starting this week, right? What's the first thing they should do?
First thing they should do, obviously, if they're local, it's always best face to face, but they need to schedule a 30-minute conversation, whether it be Zoom or in person, obviously, is preferred, or in a business atmosphere, if you will, because then you can really be serious, and it's not just a coffee break and talk about golf, right? Let's talk about how I can improve your business, how I can bring you more business, or again, like we talked about a minute ago, what pain point can I solve for you? And maybe it's not lending, maybe it's something else that has to do with the real estate transaction that I can contribute or brainstorm with. I think that's key.
Well, you can always talk about golf anyways, if you
Right.
needed to.
Some of the best networking is done on the golf course. You spend
True.
4 hours with each other. So yeah.
You learn pretty quick if you like somebody you don't.
Right. I agree. So if you're an agent, want to go golfing, let's go golfing. I'll warn you, I'm not good, so you can give me lessons though.
I don't give lessons until after the round. You know that.
Right. That's right. But it's still a lesson.
True. So for newer agents out there, because part of our audience is experienced and even new lenders or new agents, and some of them don't have a go-to lender. How do they go about finding someone and building that relationship?
I think, again, I've started to do some business with some new lenders based on referrals, or not lenders, but agents that were referred to me. Some new agents, depending on what office they're in, they're kind of, pointed to the direction of the preferred lender. But I would recommend that agent be out networking to develop their own opinion, right? Because they might not have the same personality with the preferred lender that they need to develop. It needs to be their relationship, their lender. This is my own opinion, but as an example, with a new agent, my job is to not really to sell me, but to find out what they need and the tools that I can help provide that will make them successful. But more than anything is to learn more about them. And then I'm not going to shove the kitchen sink at them, if you will, because there's so many different things that are available from a lending standpoint, but we want to provide those tools, a data, a CRM, list reports, mailings, or what have you, just the small things that are going to bring value to the agent that's not going to cost anything, right? People like things that aren't going to cost, but that's how I know I care. I'm not asking them to go 50-50 on some campaign. I want to provide real value to that new agent, that they can feel, confident, they're comfortable, and feel that they're relevant.
Okay. Last question. What is the one thing you wish every agent understood about working with their lender?
I wish that one thing, that not all lenders are equal. They're not all created equal because they don't all have the same programs. I think the one misconception that all lenders have the same program, all lenders can do the same thing, and it's just not the case. Just like when I'm trying to develop a relationship with a new agent, first things I say is I'm not here to take away the lender you're using now or your number 2 lender. I'm here to tell you about products that we have that are exclusive to us that no other lender has. Once we start providing that benefit to that agent and their clients, the rest comes behind it. So
Very good. So Rob, where can listeners reach out to you? How do they get a hold of you?
GraniteBank.com. You can find me in the Mesa office. Again, I do all 50 states, so you can refer me to another agent in other states and I can develop the same relationship. Rob Elder Loans on social media, robert.elder at granitebank.com, and or my cell phone. So Wyoming. I'm from Wyoming. So 307-631-1200.
Perfect. Well, and that's the episode, team. And here's what I want you to take away from Rob's time with us. Your lender just isn't just someone you hand a client to and forget about. Treat that relationship like it matters. Communicate early is what I heard. Bring them into the deal, make their job easier, and it's going to make your life easier. Smoother closings, fewer surprises, and yeah, sometimes, right, the lender might send you a referral back, but that's really that's just secondary. So here's your move this week. Pick one lender you work with and reach out before you have a deal on the line. Okay. Don't call them with the deal. Don't ask for anything. Just build a relationship. That's how referable people really operate. They plant the seed and then they harvest. So huge thanks to Rob Elder over at Granite Bank for the candor. All of his info is going to be in the show notes below. And hey, if you've got a question you want covered on the show, come find me. Subscribe at Closing the Gap. Reply to any email in that newsletter. It lands right in my inbox. I'd love to hear what you guys are working on. And that's it for this week, folks. One small step and you're closing the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And I will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Closing the Gap with Steve Stowe. If you got something you can use this week, follow the show wherever you're listening. That's how these conversations reach the next agent who needs them. And if your books are stressing you out, or you just want a second set of eyes on your numbers, there's a free consult waiting at Apex Accounting and Advisory. No pressure, no pitch, just help. Steve shows up here every Monday. We'll see you next week. Keep closing the gap.